It's Divas That Care Radio. Stories, strategies, and ideas to inspire positive change. Welcome to Divas That Care, a network of women committed to making our world a better place for everyone. This is a global movement for women, by women, engaged in a collaborative effort to create a better world for future generations. To find out more about the movement, visit divasthatcare.com after the show. Right now, though, stay tuned for another jolt of inspiration.
Hello to all. Welcome to Divas That Care Network. I am Joyce Benning, and I will be your host for this most exciting, invigorating, robust lifestyle show. I am just so excited again today to have with me my returning diva, Deb Matlock, and we are going to share with you about cultivating a sacred connection to nature in part 2. We talked about it last month, and it was just awesome. So we are going to continue on that today. And Deb, could you please introduce yourself to our listeners today?
Absolutely. I'm so honored to be here again. As Joyce said, my name is Deb Matlock, and I come from Colorado. I have a small business called Wild Rhythms, where the focus is the supporting, nurturing, and development of a sacred relationship to nature, I should say. I do that through personal work, retreats, and also trainings for practitioners who want to incorporate this work into whatever they're doing with folks, whether it's therapy, education, counseling, coaching, that sort of thing. So this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart and really drives my life personally and professionally. So I'm psyched to talk about it.
Oh, well, that makes two of us that are psyched to talk about it because, yes, it's right in my heart, too, because I love the connection to nature and the animals and just everything. It is a sacred connection. So as we go into it, we had talked about we were going to talk about compassion. And how would you like to start with the listeners of how compassion comes in cultivating a sacred connection to nature?
You know, I think compassion is kind of at the root of it. When I think of compassion, I think of things like, being patient, being kind, allowing ourselves to really witness and understand what another being is going through, and then asking ourselves, how can we act in this position if we need to act? You know, sometimes compassion is just awareness of something beautiful and lovely, and seeing a mother bird feeding her young in the tree and feeling compassion. You know, like I can relate to that. I know what that's like to feed young and to. But other times, compassion asks of us to dig in a little deeper and say, what role do I play here? And understanding that this life on earth, for all of us, has ups and downs, has good days and bad days, has moments of joy and moments of deep pain. And, I think compassion is being willing to take that roller coaster ride, whether it's with other humans or the animals outside our door or the animals we share our lives with or the plants in our garden. It's allowing us to step into this journey on earth and not be afraid of where the journey takes us, and just know that coming from a place of compassion is a deep place of connection.
Yes. Oh, yes. That is just beautiful. It's a good way to start each day is thinking about the compassion and the kindness that you can give throughout the day. And be kind to yourself, too, along with being kind and compassionate to others. Take that inside yourself, too, and remember to do it to yourself as well as to other people, to other animals, to nature, to everything is how I kind of look at it, too. You have to remember yourself also.
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah, because if we're not being kind to ourselves, where there's not going to be a whole lot of kindness left to extend out, then we get angry, we get irritable, our lives are, I think, become more and more self-absorbed when we don't extend compassion to ourselves and then extend it out. It's very easy to just kind of recoil inward.
Right. Mm-hmm. Oh, I so agree. It's kind of like that saying, you have to love yourself first in order to love someone else. And it's true with compassion, too. You have to be compassionate with yourself, and then you can share it with others. I mean, some little things that even come to my mind in being compassionate, and this is just living out in the country with my animals and everything, is when I'm hauling water to the cattle. If there's cows standing at the tanks that need a drink, I can wait. Anything I have can wait till you came here to get a drink. Let you get a drink first, and when you're done, you'll move, and then I can pull up to the tank and water. It's just, to me, it's just thinking of others in the way that what they came to do, and being kind to them, like you said in the very beginning, being kind and understanding and being aware of what that is. Or if even there's a calf coming up and he's almost there, I'm like, okay, he came for a drink, and if I drive up there, I'm going to scare him away and he won't get a drink. So just take that moment and just kind of look around, and to me, be observant to what is happening around you, so you know how to share the compassion and kindness.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect example of something, and I think what that example also shows is how much opportunity there is for compassion. If we just put aside our personal agenda just a little bit, like driving up to fill the tank, like you just described, you know, it's like, obviously you had to sit there for a few minutes, which isn't a terrible thing, right? You're looking at the birds, you're looking at the sky, you get a little break,
right.
You know. But it's like, are we willing to take? You know, I see that, like, the place where I see this also a lot is, I feel like there's two kinds of drivers in our neighborhood. There's one kind of driver that will slow down, you know, wait for a squirrel to go running across the road. And then there's another kind that will go right at the squirrel and be like, well, you better move it because I'm going to keep on coming, you know. And a lot of times the squirrel gets out of the way in either case, you know, sometimes, not always. But the difference there is I think, a really good example of we have so many choices we get to make. And slowing down for a squirrel takes, you know, 30 seconds. And I'm not stressing out an animal. I'm not causing the animal to have an adrenaline surge. I'm not causing them to run for their lives. You know, I'm not sitting there accusing them of being stupid because they ran out in front of a car. Well, a car is a human construction. I mean, why would I expect a squirrel? You know, some squirrels probably understand them better than others as they live longer, you know, but why would I expect, you know, I don't understand everything that squirrels do in their lives, so why would I expect them to understand everything in mine, you know? And we can choose to be compassionate in so many ways, big and small. And I think it just reverberates out. And what's interesting is you mentioned a minute ago about being compassionate with ourselves. I also think that when we are compassionate with those around us, I actually think it is in a way also being compassionate to ourselves. It's like we're just living in this beautiful exchange of energy and putting out this positive thing. And then, you know, it just feels good. So on a selfish level, being compassionate feels pretty awesome, I think.
Oh, I so agree with you. That is, and the squirrel is such a good example. And I thought about the birds the other day. There were a whole bunch of birds flying in front of me as I was driving, and I just slowed down so they could make their way and get by and everything. And I'm like, it's such a good feeling when you're being compassionate to yourself too, because it gives you a energy burst almost for myself, because I'm an animal lover and out in nature, but it just makes you feel good that you were able to have the consideration for someone else and took those few seconds to just realize that. And to me, that's what compassion is too. You show it, but it's also given right back to you, because the bird, the squirrel, they appreciated that. So it's compassion that you yourself can feel by just taking those few seconds to do it. And that's how I kind of look at it too. It's, like you said, it's an energy that kind of flows back and forth between nature, between animals, and between you. When you are showing that compassion to them, it comes right back to you too, because it makes you feel so much better.
Well, yeah, and I could not agree more. And I think the other thing that's important to talk about with compassion is that maybe I'm naive and being idealistic here, but I actually really believe, and life has showed me, that most people have a lot of compassion. Like it's as simple as things like you see a news story where there's like a video of a firefighter rescuing ducks from a storm drain, a mama duck and all the babies. And these news stories get a lot of hits. A lot of people want to watch that. A lot of people want to sit there and see those ducks get rescued and helped back to the pond. When we have global crises going on, there's so much that can be hard to see, but there's also so much compassion underneath it of people helping animals and other people and stepping up to do random acts of compassion or random acts of kindness, as we often hear, that come from these deep places. And I think all of these things show us that compassion is really a thread that weaves us together. It ties us together in a beautiful community of humans and non-humans, animals, plants. It just compassion is the glue or the thread, I think.
Oh, yes. Oh, I love that. I love how you said compassion weaves us all together. And that is very, very true. Oh, I feel that way. That was beautiful, because it does, whether it's human, whether it's nature, whether it's the animals, whatever it is, showing compassion just weaves us together. And when you see the compassion that animals give back and the love and kindness that they give, I mean, it is just incredible, because to me, they are very compassionate. I mean, my dogs they're always thinking of me. I mean, they're always right there for me, and in return, I want to be there for them. Like I heard someone say the other day, have you told your animal that you loved them today? And I'm like, well, yeah, for me, it's a daily thing. But how many of us just go along, or how many, even when you go out in nature, do you thank the trees for being there and for the shelter they can provide, or the windbreaks, or the shade in the summer? Do we take that moment to realize what they are giving us and be compassionate to them also?
Yeah, that is a great point, and that awareness of the interchange between all of life is so important, because not only does that foster gratitude and thankfulness, but I think it also does really support the idea of compassion. It's just like if we're going to be depending on each other, which we are, plants, animals, and humans, I mean, that's the reality is we're all very dependent on each other.
Yes.
And it's like, where in that web of dependency can we be very aware of how we can be compassionate in that dependency? We don't have to be exploitive. We don't have to be suppressive. We don't have to be cruel to depend on each other. We can do all of those things in a way that is compassionate and respectful.
Right. And respectful, that comes right into showing the respect to be it others, be it to the animals, be it to nature. Just even I think about some people throw things out the window, and I mean, where is it going to go? I mean, respect the earth and the beautiful nature out there, and help to take care of it in a way. And yeah, to me, compassion and, like you said, respect. Have respect for it, and just have consideration to think about it. And you'll be amazed how much more it brings into your heart when you do that with compassion and respect and honoring the other, be it the nature or the animals or the people, is how I feel. It is what resonates with me.
Yeah, and I think, an interesting word I've often heard paired with compassion is resolve. And when I think about that, resolve in a way sort of sounds negative, like, well, I'm just going to resolve, and this is how this is going to be. But I think actually at a deeper level, it really just means, I'm committing, I'm resolving the idea that I'm going to live with compassion. That's going to be a guiding value. And I think that compassion is one of those things that we can choose as a value, as a deeply held value, and I've seen different activities over the years of how we as individual humans define our primary values. I've seen things where we start with a big long list of 60 values, and you circle the 10, and then you try to get it down to smaller numbers, and and I think compassion is one of those values that we can decide is a core of our life and is going to be an orientation point, when we're standing and making decisions, when we're standing at the grocery store in line and we've got a cart full of stuff and the person just behind us came in line and has two things. Compassion, resolving to be compassionate might say, hey, let's switch place in line so that you can do your two things and get out of here instead of waiting for my whole cart of stuff. It's such a powerful place, and when we own it as a value, if it resonates for somebody to be one of those key values, I think it can inform so much of who we are and how we show up in the world.
Oh, I totally agree. It goes back to what you kind of said in the beginning, that compassion is the root. That's kind of where it starts, and then it can grow up from there, just like with the trees and the plants and everything. They put a root in the ground, and then they grow, and the beauty that shines from them, from that root. And I feel compassion can be the same way. When you make it the root of your values, it'll explode into so many other things that it will probably even amaze you when you put that value as your root, of how much more you have to give and how much more you think of yourself too. It puts yourself, loving yourself even more, because you have that compassion to be able to give. No, I love that, as putting that as a root value and then to grow from there. That is a beautiful way to describe compassion.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that comes to my mind about compassion is how empowering it is. It certainly can be attached to things like money. Compassion is certainly what fuels donations. And it's a fabulous thing. And when we can do stuff like that, that's great. But when we can't, when we can't take care of something in a really tangible way, like I'm going to give a donation to this organization, compassion can also ask of us to be very creative with, okay, how can we contribute to this situation in a way that we are able to do? Like how can we affect change or impact this scenario for these beings or this piece of land or whatever. There isn't one way to do it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. There's not just one way to be compassionate. It's as creative and as unique as each of us. And through our lives, it's a dynamic thing. And if we live from that as a core value, the way that compassion is going to get expressed can be changing and evolving and growing, and depending on situations, it's just phenomenal to see. And I think it's a superpower of potential that really gets undervalued a lot.
Mhm. I would say so too. It is, like you said, it's a super value. It's not talked about enough sometimes. Sometimes it's a core root value that just kind of gets looked over maybe in some ways, and it can empower so much in so many different ways, like you said, of giving. And if you can't give of funds, ways that maybe, like you said, you can contribute in other ways to show compassion. Like if you know someone that is needing a little bit of help, or is needing, you're going to the grocery store and maybe a neighbor needs a ride to the grocery store, show that compassion by giving them, or ask him, is there something I can get for you? I'm going there anyway. And I mean, I see it in my friends. They'll be going somewhere and they'll say, hey, is there something I can get for you? If you need anything, let me know. I'm on my way anyway. So you feel, wow, they took the time to even think about you for that, and then it makes you do it in return also. So yeah, it is, you can empower it in so many different ways. And even with the animals, you can, I know in the mornings, just for a little example of going out and feeding my horses, you can tell how much they appreciate it, because they're ready to eat, and they're depending on me for that. And the feeling that I get by being able to bring them their food and see them dive into it like, oh, man, this is great. And you can just see the appreciation. And that's, it is such a good feeling. It empowers you when you feel that compassion that you have given out to others. That is.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No,
I was just going to say,
I'm
I
done.
think it's such an exciting topic. We could just.
I know.
You know, what was coming to mind too is that empowering piece of it. You know, it also kind of grows. I mean, you know, one person's moment, one person's insight of, oh, I could do this thing, can become a whole movement. Mm-hmm. And I've seen that, you know, I think it's especially obvious in times of challenge and crisis. You know, like we had a wildfire here in this community a couple months ago, and little ideas of, you know, somebody deciding to set up a place where people could bring their memories of the local elementary school, pictures and things, so that people who lost all of that in the fire could make copies and have some pictures of part of their community. And I saw in the news yesterday with this, you know, challenging, tragic situation in Ukraine that a bunch of parents in Poland had just started leaving strollers on the train platform. So when people were leaving Ukraine with babies, children, they got out and there was this line of strollers that they could just take. And that was probably one person's idea of being compassionate, understanding a challenge that somebody else is dealing with and saying, okay, I can't fix this whole problem. But wait a minute, I've got a stroller in my closet that I don't need anymore. And boy, somebody might really love having that. And then it took off, and then all of a sudden there was this line, you know. And so I think that's the other thing. It's like because we're, I think at our core, generally speaking, compassionate. People are compassionate, beautiful souls. You know, one beautiful idea that we put out in the world could balloon into something that could really be impactful. You know, and it's just like no idea is too small. And I think that's the other important thing here to think of is how do we not censor our compassionate ideas? How do we say, well, that's an interesting idea. It might be a little bit out there, but let's try it. Let's see what happens if I suggest this to my community, or if I leave a stroller on the train, you know, platform for somebody, or, you know, let's just see what happens. Does it take off or not? You know, because it might become this amazing thing that it makes so many lives better.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. It's kind of like don't ever underestimate that thought of compassion that came into your mind, because it came there for a reason, and who knows how it can be empowered from there. So don't bury it when you feel it. Let it shine. Let your light shine is kind of a way I would say it.
Yeah. And I think you bring up a really important point is that it came there for a reason, you know, and this gets into a big philosophical discussion, but I'm with you on that one. I feel like if some random idea is coming into one of us, you know, there's a reason why it's coming to the person it's coming to. You know, whatever mysteries, whatever beliefs somebody has, you know, why is this idea occurring to this person on this day at this time in this place? You know, and if we can be humble in front of that and say, I don't know, but okay, let's do this thing. Let's start a community drive for, you know, whatever it is. You know, let's do this thing, because maybe there's a reason why that person was the one that had that glimpse of inspiration.
Right. Oh, I so agree, because I feel universe, however you want to say it, those thoughts into the minds, or those compassionate thoughts into the minds of the people that they know can do something with it. But sometimes it's such a brief thought that we just kind of put it in the back burner and go, oh, yeah, maybe later. But those are the times where I feel you can really shine, is by those small compassionate ideas that you think about and can react on them. I think those can be some of the most beautiful moments, just like you talked about the stroller. I mean, the person that thought about that probably never dreamed how many would participate and take off with that, and how much it would help the ones that were needing them and could pick one up, and like the pictures at the school from the fire, how much that means to some people that have lost all of that, and those memories they can treasure and still have pictures from it. What a beautiful way to show your compassion to others in a very small way that grows into a big way, just like it being the root. It just, who knows where it can go from there when it starts to grow. So those are beautiful examples, Deb. I love them.
Well, and I like what you said about the divine inspiration, because exactly that's how I feel about it too. It's like this big amazing web, this big mystery that we're part of. You know, these compassionate acts are the thread, they are the glue, they are the thing that keeps it all together. And, you know, it's just, it's kind of like honoring that divine inspiration in a way is another compassionate act in and of itself. You know, just to say, okay, I'm gonna trust that for whatever reason I can maybe do this, even if it feels bigger than me, even if it feels like I don't have the skill set for what this idea requires. You know, maybe I have enough, though, to get it rolling, and maybe I can find some people with the skill sets. You know, it's, you know, just having that kind of humbleness in the face of the inspiration. Mm-hmm. Just to say, oh, wow, why me? Okay, I guess me. Okay.
Well, and it's kind of, I feel, too, you throw that kind of energy out into the world, and the universe will bring you the people then that can help it to grow from there, because you attract like-minded people is kind of one of the sayings, and I have found that to be true. So if you give out that idea that you got, you can be amazed at how many are there to help you. If you feel you're not talented in this part, then that person comes in, and it's like a puzzle. All the pieces come together to create what that compassionate thought was that came to you. And it'll be beautiful.
Oh, I love that puzzle. Yeah, you're exactly right. It's a puzzle. And you know, we are one piece of it. But yeah, that is the perfect metaphor. That's the perfect one. Yeah. And all the pieces come together, but you know, it's every piece is important. Mm-hmm. And it takes all of us. You know, living in a compassionate world takes all of us.
Yes, it does. It definitely does. And don't ever feel that your part isn't as important as someone else's, because it was all brought together, and it could not happen without each important part. And that's sometime where I think us as humans down ourselves and say, well, my part isn't as important as the other. And every part, the puzzle isn't complete without every tiny piece. So every piece is as important as the other.
Yeah, definitely. And the pieces all depend on each other.
Yes, they do. Every single one depends on each other to be completed. Oh, how beautiful. Deb, this has just been incredible. I cannot believe that our interview is coming to a close again. This was a beautiful, beautiful topic. Is there a final tip about compassion that you would like to leave with our listeners today?
You know, I think a great exploration of compassion is to say to ourselves, okay, if I were to live today with compassion guiding me all day long, you know, what would that look like? You know, and challenge ourselves to do it. You know, 100% is tough, you know, but challenge ourselves to do it. And then at the end of the day, say, wow, what do I notice about today? Letting compassion kind of drive through my day today. What did I notice that was different? What did I notice that felt really good? What did I notice I was already doing? Like, oh, yeah, I was already doing that, and it just was more clear to me today. But just letting compassion drive the day, every decision, and then reflecting on it at the end of the day to see where that takes us.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that is a beautiful tip. I love that tip, just using compassion as your guide. Let it be your driver for the day today and see where it will take you. Beautiful, Deb. I loved it. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure, and thank you again for having me back on this fabulous show.
Oh, you are so welcome, Deb. It is my pleasure to have you as my guest. I love it every time. I love our chats and what we share with our listeners. Thank you again, and have a absolutely beautiful day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. And I want to thank all of our listeners for listening to this absolutely incredible interview with our amazing diva, Deb Matlock. And her links will all be posted below the podcast so you can connect with her. And please share the show with all your family and friends. Check out all the other hosts and their shows on divasthatcare.com. Have a fantastic day, and remember, use compassion as your guide and see where it drives you. And remember what she said, reflect at the end of the day where it took you. And be kind to all, give your animals a hug, and share your love with them. Until we connect again on Robust Lifestyles, stay strong and healthy.
Thanks for listening. This show was brought to you by Divas That Care. Connect with us on Facebook, on Instagram, and of course on divasthatcare.com, where you can subscribe to our newsletter so you don't miss a thing.